Hey Fido, greetings from my kitchen. This is me, Banana Fish 711, and this is my FidoTube AMA. So, I got a few questions so far, so I thought I'd go ahead and start answering them. What's the real difference between a bi woman and a non-binary? Aren't we all playing both masculine and feminine roles in our life? Why a non-binary person uses plural they? Doesn't it sound schizophrenic to be two people instead of one who changed identity? You know, this is kind of an interesting question because I wrestled with this for a really long time. I wrestled with what it meant to be non-binary. It was something that was always sort of in the back of my mind for a really, really long time. But, you know, what did that mean for me? I knew what it meant for some of my friends who were non-binary, but you know, I think it's a really, really personal decision and definition. To the first point, what's the difference between a bi woman and a non-binary person? A person who identifies as a bi woman is generally someone who is speaking in terms of their sexuality, in that they really don't have a preference between male and female partners, or that preference is not significant one way or the other, that they are comfortable in both kinds of relationships. Being non-binary has nothing to do with my sexuality. It has everything to do with my identity and how I identify as a person, as a human being. I am, in terms of my sexuality, I am pansexual because I don't believe that there's a gender binary, so to call myself bisexual would be wholly inaccurate. I see gender as a spectrum, and so the partners that I choose or the partners that I want can end up really anywhere along that spectrum. I've never found myself to have a particular preference. To the second point, aren't we all both playing masculine and feminine roles in our life? Sure. I absolutely think that's true for a lot of people, certainly. For myself, it's not that I'm playing a role, though. I think the easiest way for me to describe it is that I have just never felt female, but nor have I ever felt male, particularly. Although I will admit that I lean a lot more masculine than I am feminine. I find more comfort in things that are quote-unquote traditionally masculine. I find more ease in that dynamic. I've always had some difficulties with femininity and traditionally feminine things, specifically stuff surrounding pregnancy. I'm actually really uncomfortable with the idea of becoming pregnant or having children. So there are a lot of things about traditional femininity that never really spoke to me. And since I don't see gender as something binary and rather as a spectrum, I sort of move rather fluidly along that spectrum, and I never really stop at a given point. So to call myself one or the other would be wholly inaccurate. Doesn't it sound schizophrenic to be two people instead of one who changes identity? I'm not two people. I am singularly non-binary. It is just where I end up on the spectrum. It is just, where I am on any given day. And, sometimes I like my pretty 50s dresses, and sometimes I want to wear my suit. That's really all it is. As to the thing about pronouns, plural they is a thing, but singular they is also a thing, particularly as I think Drew said in recent years, the preference of using masculine as a conventionality when you don't know someone's gender had been fairly dominant, but as more people come out as non-binary, there's been this question of, is that really accurate? Is that really fair? No, because they're not identifying that way. I'm not identifying that way. So using singular they has sort of been a solution to that. They and them becomes an easy way to identify a person without marking them as a specific gender. So I hope that clarifies things a little bit. I understand that it really is a difficult thing to describe. And that's why it genuinely took me a long time to come out. I didn't really know how to describe to people what I was feeling or how I wanted to present and how I wanted to be referred to. So I think we are always evolving, and I think that we are never over. We are never done. So who knows what will come next, but I know that I will never be male or female. That I do know. Okay. Favorite yoga position? Oh, that's really hard. But you guys, I mean, it's pretty obvious from the posts I make on Fido that I fucking love back bends, right? That genuinely comes from a place of, you know, we do a lot of forward flexion in our lives. I stand at a shop all day, and I used to sit at a desk all day, and that does a number on your spine. You know, after a while, that sort of gives you a little bit of a hunch and a rounded back. Your shoulders sit more forward, and it's not great for your posture. So I started backbending practice about, I want to say about 5 years ago. No, about four, because it was when I started working at the last studio that I was at. And I met my boss, who for all her faults, is an excellent backbending teacher, a very safe backbending teacher. She taught me how to move my spine in a very healthy and very fluid way. And practicing that every day has brought me a lot of comfort in my life. It actually, I used to have bulges in my spine at L4, L5, and S1. And after about 4 years of backbending practice, I had an MRI done last year when they were trying to figure out what was going on with me. Before I was diagnosed with RA, they thought I may have slipped a disc in my spine, only to find out that my MRI was beautiful. It was spotless, which was kind of amazing to see your spine change like that, to see how different things could be. So yeah, any sort of back bends, that's, I don't know, it's a pretty good high. It really is. It does something to your central nervous system. What is the secret to good caramel? Patience. Absolutely. Patience, 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 and practice. I can't tell you how many times I have burned caramel. An embarrassing number, in fact. You have to pay attention. You have to know that exact point that is just dark enough but not burned. And that just takes a lot of practice. And I was unemployed most of last year, so I had a lot of time to practice, which is why some of you got candy in the mail from me. And I will still do that if you ask nicely. Just might take me a little bit longer because I work full time now. No longer fun employed. But yeah, patience and just doing it again and again and again and again. It really is one of those things that becomes intuitive over time, like any habit. You learn what to look for. You learn how much you need to stir, how much you need to leave it. And that really does depend on whether you are making like hard caramel or soft caramel, whether you stir it or not. If it's a sauce, when to add the cream, like just things like that. It's a process of trial and error, I think. I've read a lot of cookbooks, I've read a lot of confectionery books, but I find that nothing really gets it. The only thing that gets it is you doing it again and again. So if you want to learn how, buy a lot of sugar and genuinely don't be upset with yourself when you screw it up a million times, because that's how you learn, right? We learn by doing. Alrighty, where are we at here? Best part about my time as a legit drug dealer. It was such an interesting job. It was really pretty fascinating to sort of see the way that medicine is used, and see sort of the way that doctors try to work around the fact that the insurance industry in this country is pretty terrible, and doesn't serve consumers, doesn't serve patients well at all. So I think my favorite thing about it was watching the way that really smart physicians would write their prescriptions so that they could get around people's insurance companies denying them. I would have physicians who would purposefully write for something that they knew was going to get denied, just to get past it in the process, just to make it shorter. So they would write the prescription for the thing they knew was going to be denied, and then they would at the same time write the thing that they knew would be approved. So it was kind of like making less steps for the patient. I always really appreciated that. I appreciated the length that really good physicians would go to make sure that their patients were getting the best care. I think probably the funniest thing about it would be just how many lies people will tell to get Adderall. Like, a lot of lies. Especially when they're trying to pick it up early. I've heard everything from my grandmother is sick in Maryland and there's no way I'm going to be able to drive here tomorrow because I have to sit with her 24 hours a day, and she is in Baltimore, and if I don't get this right now, I won't be able to concentrate enough to drive to see her. And it would just spiral and spiral and spiral until they were actually lying about the lie that they had told you in the first place. So I was always really kind of amazed by the verbal gymnastics that people would go through to get like excessive amounts of that stuff. It was very bizarre to me. Why does cheese make me happy? Oh, there's a lot of good science behind that. So tyrosine, which is an amino acid that's found in cheese, is broken down in the brain by an enzyme called tyrosine hydroxylase. And tyrosine hydroxylase is very, very prevalent in the human brain. And when it breaks down tyrosine, it breaks it down into dopamine, epinephrine, etc., those chemicals that make you feel really good. So that's why cheese is addictive and makes you feel really good. It works on the same receptors in the brain as opioids and opiates. So we are very much inclined to become addicted to it as a substance. And that is why so many people who are very lactose intolerant will suffer for it. It is really good stuff. Your body is very smart. It knows simply by smell and simply by taste that tyrosine is in it, and your senses pick up on what they know is going to give them that feel-good rush. So very interesting. Not just it tastes good, you know. Oh, is caffeine a safe high? I mean, sure, but if you're me and you have a pacemaker and an arrhythmia, it's not gonna make you feel real good. It's gonna make you feel pretty shitty. I spent most of last night with, so when it was really bad, like right after I finished that pot of coffee, I was skipping a beat probably about every 10, I could feel it on my pulse, about every 10 beats. By the middle of the night, it was about every 15, and right now it's about every 20, 25. So it's getting better. It is not a dangerous high. My cardiologist says that, like, I'm not going to die or anything, but it is extremely uncomfortable, and I did not like it, and I don't think that I want to be up that late and that anxious again for a long time. So I think I will go back to my decaf Americanos and enjoy them thoroughly. Yeah, definitely not doing the caffeine again. no thanks. Which is odd because prior to heart surgery, I was an 8-cup of coffee a day drinker, and didn't affect me at all. Probably because a lot of the medications I was on make me pretty drowsy, but I never really had a reaction to caffeine like that before, so it was pretty freaky. But yeah, that's all I got for now. If you ask me more questions, I'm happy to answer them. This is really fun. I kind of like doing it. So yeah, have a good day, Fido. We'll talk to you again soon.